And we're off! Welcome back to the 8th episode of Superannuated Starman. If this is your first time listening, go back to episode 0, where Chris and I discussed our memories of Super Mario World. Today, we'll be discussing Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and joining me today is a very special guest, J.M. Tilbury. Jared, thank you so much for coming to the show. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. Next, we have Cory. Cory, how are you?
What are we doing?
We're doing a podcast.
Oh, hey, yeah, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. So, for our listeners out there, Cory is currently in a very large semi-truck, and there may be some background noise associated with that. So, if we cut into any dead zones or have any background noise, I'll do my best to try to fix that in post, but just be aware that that may be an issue going forward. Next, and back with us, as always, is Chris Duerksen. Chris, I hope that you're excited to talk about some Super Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah, sure. You betcha.
Oh, you betcha. So, Chris and I are both from the north. So,
Hey, you just made it sound like I'm from Canada.
Hey,
Not from the Great North.
well, it definitely
I think I'm the
sounded like
closest
you were up
northerner
there.
here.
I think you are. I don't know where Jared lives, but I think I'm the furthest south now.
Jared lives in San Jose, California.
I'm the furthest south.
Yep.
So, before we get started with our personal stories of the game, here is a brief history of Super Mario Kart. So, it was the first game in the series, starting on the Super Nintendo, that spawned 7 sequels across nearly every Nintendo console, with the latest iteration, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, for the Nintendo Switch. There were 3 arcade ports of Double Dash, I believe, and they were produced with Namco. And but that's a whole nother deal, and it's very, very difficult to find any information on those games. So Super Mario Kart released on August 27th in Japan, and 5 days later in North America on September 1st, 1992. Europe wouldn't see this game until early the next year on January 1st, 1993. The game was a massive success. After selling its first 1 million copies, it received a Player's Choice release. It went on to sell over 8.76 million copies worldwide, becoming the 4th best-selling game for the Super Nintendo. It was extremely well received amongst critics, reviewers, and players alike, with most publications giving the game a 9 out of 10 or higher. In the 100th volume of Nintendo Power, it was listed as the 32nd game in the 100 best Nintendo games of all time. Super Mario Kart was produced by Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto and directed by Tadashi, I'm going to butcher this, Sugiyama, and Hideki Kono. The development staff originally consisted of only 15 members. The game started off as a sequel to F-Zero, but then kind of shifted into a generic kart racer, and it wasn't until several months into the development that the development team decided to use Mario as a placeholder to demonstrate what it would look like when one kart passed another on screen. And with that, the idea of a kart racer using Mario Kart characters was born. The game features 8 playable characters with distinct stats such as top speed, acceleration, and handling. There are single-player and multiplayer options where players can race through the 4 cups consisting of 20 stages with 3 difficulty levels. There are 2 different head-to-head options consisting of match race and battle mode. I'm sure that we'll have some discussion later on about battle mode, so I'm not going to talk about that right here. But lastly, before we get to our next segment, something I wanted to discuss, and that I always really known but didn't really understand the mechanics until I started doing this research, was the rival system. So each character has a specific rival order consisting of 1 very fast driver, 1 fast, 1 medium, 1 slow, and 3 very slow drivers. An example is that if the player selects Mario, his quote-unquote very fast rival will always be Donkey Kong Jr. No matter what map you start on, or regardless, it will always be Donkey Kong Jr., with the exception of if you're playing 2-player and the second player chooses who would be that fast rival. This lineup is only guaranteed in the very first race of each cup. However, if a rival can't maintain or recover their place at the end of the race, the rival standing will be changed. An example would be if the player using Mario as his character manages to make Donkey Kong Jr. finish last, or maybe even just lower, he'll become one of the
fifth. Yeah.
yeah, he'll become one of the very slow drivers, and each other character will move up, making Princess Peach Mario's very fast rival because she's the fast one. So there's an entire table online that explains this in further depth that shows each rival and everything for every single character. It's very easy to look up. And related to this concept is the rubber band AI, where your rival roster order is largely going to maintain their positions. So again, using Mario and Donkey Kong as the example, if Donkey Kong is hit with the shell or some of the power-up, he will very quickly regain his place all the way up to second. So he will, the computer will cheat. He will move extremely fast, moving all the way up. So
I knew there's the proof in the pudding. The computer cheats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry if that was confusing, but I think it's important to note and just kind of explain why the AI was so unfair. So
Yeah, I hated that as a kid. As a
I mean, that is
12-year-old,
a really cool feature, though. Like, I didn't know they did that. I just assumed that, like, if you actually had some sort of commanding lead, like, all of them were just kind of powered up, not like a tier system.
yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was based on
It was a
tiers.
tier, yeah.
Were you saying something, Jared?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to run over you guys. That's way more thought than I ever put into it.
Oh man, as a 12-year-old, that was infuriating. I hated the fact that no matter what I did, because you can even watch on the little mini map, you could see the person behind you. Like if you had a good lead, you could see them just like instantly catch up, going faster than you knew. They weren't using just a mushroom to go fast. Like they would literally just rubber band right back to you.
Exactly. And there's actually some other ways that the AI cheats, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later on. Oh, yep. You're nailing it, man. And we will discuss that. But with all that out of the way, let's listen to some awesome tracks from Super Mario Kart. And when we come back, we'll discuss our personal history with the game. Stick around. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed those great tracks from Super Mario Kart. Jared, because you are our special guest, please start us off with your memories of Super Mario Kart.
Well, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I moved in with a buddy of mine that actually had one of these. And we would sit there, nights and, play Super Mario Kart or, whatever. And boy, howdy, it got really violent. I tell you, that's the strong. I remember the violence, and I know that's strange to say because I mean it's such a peaceful game. But sometimes when you shoot them with that puka shell and you knock them out at first, and then you're laughing at them as you pass them by, boy, a fist can be thrown.
It destroys friendships.
It does. It's a destroyer of friendships. But it's safe to say. Me and the guy mentioned we actually did survive as far as we were still friends. So after all these years, amazing. But no, I tell you, it was a lot of fun too. You know what I mean? It was a fun game, and I don't know why it was fun, especially if you like racing games and being able to, have bragging rights afterwards, and you do your victory dance, because victory dances were big back then. When I was playing, a lot of the football players were doing them and stuff like that. They were catching like wildfire, I tell you. But no, good times playing this game, I tell you. And when it was, you guys are dating me right now, because it wasn't childhood for me. It was more like mid 20s.
Well, that's fine. The point of this podcast is just to kind of look back fondly on the games that we played when we were younger, just kind of touching on that nostalgia of, these classic video games that everyone seems to love and enjoy. And we just kind of want to recapture that and also talk about what it was like replaying them today.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, no, well, heck, if you still got time, I can take you all the way back to Atari 6400.
Well, we're not discussing Atari on this episode, but that's definitely something that we can talk about on future episodes, because I had an Atari 2600, and it was something that I definitely played a lot as a kid. Battle Tank.
Back in my day, Joust was the best game ever, I tell you what.
I played a lot of Joust.
Yeah, I loved Joust.
You're welcome for getting you off topic.
Yeah, so
first point goes to Jared.
You're welcome.
Just to kind of derail things a little further, though, you were talking about starting fights. I wonder what game is responsible for the most broken controllers of any platform.
That's a great question.
That is, and besides broken controllers, broken friendships. I want to know what game ruined more relationships than any other.
I think Monopoly has.
I was about to say.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I meant video game.
Yeah, see, I figured 007. That got pretty intense. I remember.
Yeah, if you get a guy with odd job, like there's a lot of.
The tiny hitbox.
There's a lot of not appropriate language.
He's being so unfair.
That is cheating him.
You gotta tilt that camera down,
not
man.
playing with you. Take my toys and go home.
Well, we'll save 007 for another day. Jared, do you recall who your favorite character was?
I had a top 3. Toad had to be number 1. Number 2 was probably Yoshi, and then I had number 3 with Luigi. So if we had 4 people playing, if I could grab one of those 3, I was all right.
So was there anything else you wanted to discuss about the game when you played it when you were younger?
I hated the ice level. That was the worst level of all. Yeah, I hated that one.
That's something we don't really talk about. So our least favorite tracks. So the ice level, which I don't know the name of that off the top of my head. I'm going to look that up. But what
would have been, I actually have it right here, Vanilla Lake.
Yeah, where you could fall through the ice, and there's the little ice bricks that when you hit them, like it stopped you, and then the ice brick would disappear. But the AI would never ever hit one of them. They'd just go right through. So every lap, you're just basically having to plow a new way through every time.
It made me want to punch myself in the face.
Incredibly frustrating. Who is your least favorite character?
Oh, least favorite was probably Bowser. I did not like his slowness. Okay, sure, he's a battle tank, but that was just I couldn't use him. That was me.
This is a question for everybody. Did you guys play more in the GP, the actual racing, or the battle mode?
Racing.
Battle mode.
I ended up playing a lot more of the racing myself, but that's I guess something we'll kind of talk about each for our personal stories. What were you saying, Chris?
Oh no, I was just saying as a only child with this this game, yeah, it was all racing for me. But this game was the one I'd be begging like my uncles and and my dad to play battle mode with me whenever I had a chance, because I didn't get to do it that often.
That sucks.
It's weird. This is the first time I've heard Chris's voice, and I've known him for 3-4 years now.
Well, I mean, most of the time I'm whispering to you.
That is true. Sweet nothings.
Yep.
and then I wake up in a cold sweat. But enough of my personal life.
Other than that, was there anything else you wanted to discuss about the game?
Off topic. No, just that it was always fun. It was always, the Rainbow Bridge kind of sucked too. And maybe my favorite. I did like the Donut Plains or Ghost Valley. Ghost Valley was probably top in my book. I loved that level. If we're looking at the other end of the spectrum,
I'm glad you said that.
Heck, I think you pretty much picked my memory clean of it. If anybody else is ready to talk, then I'm more than willing to yield the floor.
All right.
Become part of the peanut gallery again.
Well, I will go ahead and kind of discuss some of my memories, if you guys are okay with that.
By all means.
With Mario Kart, there was F-Zero first, and that came out in November of 1990, and I had played that game in a friend's house, and while I thought it was fun, it didn't really capture me like Super Mario Kart eventually would. I think a lot of it is that built-in appeal of Mario and Company, and that's what really sold me on the game, and that's probably true of tons of other kids. And I don't think this game would have been nearly as popular without the Mario franchise backing it.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I actually never owned this game as a kid, but this was a title that got tons of rentals from our local video store. And I did have a friend that eventually got the game, and that meant that I spent a lot more playing it over at his house. As far as my go-to character, it was always Yoshi or Koopa Troopa. Those are basically my top two picks. And because I played it so often at my friend's house and occasionally got to rent it for my house, I was able to get pretty far into the game during those weekend rentals, but I usually wasn't able to get through the Special Cup race, especially on the 150cc, and definitely took a long, long time once I eventually got my own kart. And I may be the odd man out, but I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on this, but I didn't really enjoy battle mode much as a kid. Like I said, I did a lot of racing. Now, I think battle mode was pretty great in some of the later iterations, especially on Mario Kart 64.
Oh, yeah, 64 is when it blew my mind.
Yes, the maps, the
and
three
the
dimensions.
3D. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And, the levels and yeah.
But I found battle mode to be pretty boring on the Super NES. And
and the levels weren't that great, and I mean they're very simple. I mean, it was cool how like the levels represented like the different aspects, like the different kind of flavors of the game, but they were all still like you were just in a square with little obstacles in your way that I don't know. The maps were just kind of boring.
Yeah, it wasn't that great for me at least. And I'll have more to say in the segment where we revisit this game. But when discussing my childhood memories of it, I don't really have a ton, despite playing this game a lot. I didn't own the game until much later on, but it's just a racing game, so it doesn't really have a story to speak of. And outside of getting your personal best on the laps, there's not a lot of replayability unless you and a friend are just trying to go head to head.
Right. With controllers and stuff like that, I always found if you had 4 players going at it, that was probably some of the funnest times of it.
Well, you couldn't play this game 4-player. It wasn't until Super Mario Kart 64, its sequel.
Boy, I keep confusing the two. Pardon old memories.
It's all good. So I'm going to have some questions for you guys as we keep going on. But Cory, I'd like to hand it off to you and hear some of your memories from the game.
I also did not own this one as a child. I had played this a lot, as you said, with rentals and like going to friends' house. I had a couple friends that owned this one, so it was a lot of like going over there and just kind of blowing 2-3 hours at a time on this one. And for me, it was a lot more battle mode, and I don't know if that's because we had more people around, but when you start up, like a brand new cup or whatever, it takes a little bit to get through all that. So I think it was just an easier thing for us to, kind of do the fighting, and then we would just kind of switch off controllers with like the losers and the victors and stuff. But it also didn't help that like you had that one friend who was way better at it than everyone else, probably because they owned a copy. And then it was like, okay, we're racing. Okay, you know how to power slide, you know how to do all the tricks and everything. And
every shortcut,
like yeah, the shortcuts. And it's like, oh, okay, you're like 9 miles ahead of us. All right, well, I guess we'll just watch you beat this race now. So, I mean, for me, it did get much better with the later iterations of this. This was a pretty rough cut of what we see today. But as a child, like, this was definitely like a very easy thing to get sucked into competitively. Like, especially if you could use, like a banana or something to take somebody out and then, get that upset victory. There was a lot of quick competition with this one.
Good points. So I kind of hit this earlier when I was talking to Jared. Who were your least favorite characters and who were your go-to characters?
My go-tos, I mean, it was either Toad or Bowser for me, honestly. Toad was kind of an all-around, like, pretty solid handler as far as I recall. And
Toad was a stud.
And then as far as Bowser goes, like, he's just such a big presence that I was of the mindset that I'm not going to get first, so I might as well ruin everyone else's time. And it was something where you could just crash into people and kind of knock them off course, and just kind of that disruptive style of play, which really led to a lot of fun on its own. So, I mean, that's kind of where my mindset was, like where Toad was the competitor, and if I was just trying to mess with people, like Bowser was definitely a good pick for that.
Yeah, I can see that kind of destructive attitude when it came to this game, because it is really easy to screw your buddies over if you want to.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there's collision effects too. So I mean, if you and as you mentioned with the ice level, yeah, well, and you mentioned with the ice levels too, like there's so many, like pratfalls, and people can put bananas out, and there's like parts of the level that disappear, and you look at things like Rainbow Road, and you're driving along, and someone can slam into you, and then you get launched off the side. So if I'm playing Bowser, and my friend's being smug and he's trying to lap me, I get in front of him, and then he gets bounced off the road, and then I get to have a laugh about it, So that's just one of those ways to play the game.
And it's a fair way. Maybe it's not going to give you any wins.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you get to knock that smug smile off your friend's face, and that's really what gaming is all about.
That's called a personal victory.
Yes, it's a moral and personal victory. But I think that really covers it. Like you said, there's no story to this. There's nothing special, and I mean, even the win conditions, like other than the little 30-second cutscene of like, oh, we did it. There's not much to it. So, I mean, for the most part, it was just kind of one of those games where the replayability came with the people that surrounded you. So I really don't have too many like hallmark memories other than like sitting in some basement in the middle of summer, and you're up too late, and you're eating junk food, and you're freaking out because your friend who was ahead of everybody like suddenly got launched off the side of the map, and then they ended up in 7th place. So I mean, that's more or less what Mario Kart is to me. What about you, Chris?
See, now I replayed the crap out of this game. I got this game. This is one of the games I actually owned, and I got this. I want to say like in '96, probably 6th grade.
Yep.
Got it for Christmas, and I played the snot out of this game. I like I said, mostly single player. And Cory, one thing I was thinking about when you're telling your story about every time you go over to your friend's house, you guys were always playing multiplayer. It's probably because your friends were like me, who were sick of playing it by themselves all the time, and any chance they had to any chance they could to play multiplayer,
Well,
they
and,
would.
you were mentioning that you were the one that was replaying it all the time. I think you're the one here that's owned the game, from the earliest age. So it's like, yeah, I played it and I got really good at it, and then I decided to beat everyone.
Yeah, and actually, and because I mean, the game came out what 92? What'd you say, Sean?
Let me go back and I can tell you. It came out in 1992 September 1st, 1992 in North America.
And in 1996, it got re-released as a reissued, re-released, whatever. Like I can't remember what they're called.
The Player's Choice.
The Player's Choice. This was the first game ever released as a Player's Choice. This was the first Player's Choice game.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yep. And and that's the copy that I had of it. I got it as soon as for Christmas. That same year as released as Player's Choice, and so I was a little late getting it, but I was also, to be fair, I was also late getting a Super Nintendo in the first place. So, but yeah, I still own the box and the cart for this and everything, and I played this game so much that, like, granted, I lived in a little country farmhouse, with me and my mom, and I had nothing better to do. This was before I got a PC and before the internet and before, back when you still, long distance phone calls still cost an arm and a leg. But I played this game so much that, I knew every map. I tried to beat the game with every single character individually. And my favorite characters as a kid was Yoshi and Koopa Trooper.
The best.
Koopa. Which actually, now as an adult, you look up the stats and, dude,
they kind of suck.
Yeah. I was gonna save that for replaying as an adult. Yeah, Toadstool and Koopa Trooper are the worst. But yeah, no.
They have like the best handling though.
They were also low weight, which means they got knocked around really easy. They were also like medium acceleration and low top end speed. So they were just kind of, handling was the only thing that they had going for them. And I do remember as a kid, like, especially playing on the 150cc, like, you can't make any mistakes. You can't bump into anybody or else you're ruined. So Yoshi was a go-to. Luigi was probably number 3, just because, him and Mario have the same stats, but, for some reason, I've always thought Mario was not as cool as Luigi.
Yeah, he was. Actually, I agree with you, Chris, on that.
Yeah, because everybody plays Mario, so it's cool to play Luigi. It's a treat. My favorite maps, I know it's a cliche, it's probably Rainbow Road, but that's because, I don't know, it just felt cool just to be there, because you had to unlock that one, like that one. You had to unlock the whole. Oh God, Sean, what's the Star Cup? Special Cup.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to unlock the Special Cup, but then that was the final race of the Special Cup. So it was a journey to get there. So it felt special to get there as a kid. And my least favorite were the mud ones. I hated the mud ones.
Like Choco Island.
Yeah. Anyone that had a mud pit in it, I hated it. And the bridges in like the Donut Plains.
Yep. Donut Plains 3 had
Donut Plains 3.
Bridges.
Yeah, the first one in the Special Cup. The broken bridges, I hated them because for some reason, like, my timing on the jumps, I would always just barely miss going over, like, landing on the safe side of the bridge. But I just remember as a kid, like, you're talking about, like, how this was started off as a generic kart racing game. I don't remember any kart racing games before this game. Like, was this the first kart racing game? Or
if there was one before it, I definitely don't know of it.
Yeah, I can't think of a single one. And before this, I was super into F-Zero. I loved F-Zero. And racing games on the the NES before this were all just very, very linear. They all kind of had the same idea.
Bike, baby!
Oh, Excite Bike was different. That was cool. But
I loved Excite. I played hours of that.
Yeah, but I loved how Mario Kart was so vibrant, so colorful. The soundtrack was great. It had the same. It felt like the same universe as Super Mario World, and it had the same bright colors and the same fun color, cartoony graphics, and the same, obviously the same kind of characters and stuff. And I just loved how cool this game was. Like it just felt very exciting, and it never got old to me.
It's definitely one of those games that you can go back to over and over again, because while it may be difficult to get to those, later cups like the special cup, replaying that on or playing that on 150cc is an exceptional challenge.
Yeah, which I did as a kid. But I will admit, I spent most of my time in the 100cc, just because 150cc, that's what you played if you wanted to torture yourself. Which I replayed this game a lot as a kid, so I was determined to beat it on 150cc, which I'm pretty sure I did. I'll be 100% honest. I'm not sure if I did or didn't, but I mean, but 100% or 100cc, that was my comfort zone, because it was still competitive enough, it's still fast enough, but it didn't make you want to throw your controller. And one great thing about playing this and replaying this, especially as a kid, compared to other games, is that like other games with Mario, with platformers, even with games like even like Castlevania, you can memorize the rhythm and get it down. You know what I mean? Like speedrunners will practice doing the same run a million times, so that way they could just shave it down, because everything's the exact same every time, Whereas a game like this, it seems so much more chaotic and so random, and like depending on what you get in the power-ups, and depending on if you accidentally clip a corner or bump into Bowser or something, like this game, it felt like you never had the same race twice, which is probably another reason why I replayed this. I've played this game hundreds of times as a kid. I am a Mario Kart dork as a kid. But yeah, so that wraps up for me. I felt like I talked way more than everybody else.
That's all right.
It was all excellent. It was really good to hear your thoughts on this game, and you're the only one out of all of us that owned the game when you were younger. So
yeah,
you just by
I'm the
that
king of this
nature,
podcast.
Yeah. But by that very nature, you had the most time with it. So it just makes sense that you're going to be the one to be able to give us the most background, that personal story that you have with the game.
And I will admit, on a side note, this was the first game where I really noticed where, as a kid, when you play with old people, this was the first game where I noticed they would lean when they were trying to go around corners and stuff. And as a kid, I decided, I'm like, I'm never going to do that when I play video games. But everybody does the lean. But
you do. I lean. You lean. We all lean. It's all right.
Yeah, I lean so hard as an adult now. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I specifically remember playing this game like on New Year's Eve. When my uncle came over, and we were playing this, and he just kept like leaning over, like leaning around corners and stuff, and that I took a note of that in my mind, and it's always been there. And every time I lean, I always think of my uncle. Anyways,
this is why I like doing this podcast, is because we just kind of tap into these memories that we have, and we get the chance to share them with each other. And at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of adults talking about what it was like to play games as kids. And that's why I like doing this so much.
And this game in particular, because I did have it.
Our own mortality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this one really, like, I can almost smell the room that I'm in every time I fire this game up still, like, this is one of those games that... Oh, my mom mostly smoked in the kitchen.
All right, Chris, if that's all that you have, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss what it's like replaying Super Mario Kart today in 2022. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that music. I'm going to go ahead and discuss my replaying of Super Mario Kart today. I played it on a Nintendo Switch through the NSO, the Nintendo Switch Online. I didn't mention earlier in the history segment, but this game was available on the Wii, the Wii U, the new Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console, and it was also one of the 21 games on the Super NES Classic Edition, and has most recently been re-released through the Nintendo Switch Online service, and that's how I went and played it. So also through NSO, there's the Super Mario Kart SP. If you choose that game, it has all 3 difficulty levels and all cups unlocked from the get-go. So you don't actually have to play through the game to experience 150cc or the special cup. My first impressions of replaying it today is that the game looks really bad. And maybe that's not something that I would say about every game, but of the games that we played so far, this is definitely the worst looking one. I now own a boxed copy of it, but unfortunately I don't have access to it. So I really would have liked to play this on a CRT to kind of see what the big differences were as opposed to playing it on an HD TV. But this Mode 7 heavy game on an HD television, it just looks like a mess. I did load up F-Zero for comparison's sake, and that game also looks pretty bad. But the music in F-Zero is great, so it's got that going for it. Cutting the screen in half really limits the viewing area, and it made me wish that there was a full screen option. And it made me wonder if there were some technical limitations to the game, like slowdown, that made the developers choose to cut the screen in half. I will say, though, that it's nice to see the entire track at all times and see where the players are in real time. Hitting select will switch that bottom screen to the rear view mirror, which I thought was pretty useless. Did you guys ever use that?
No, not at all, really. No, actually, to try and make myself relevant, I was sitting here watching some clips on YouTube from it, and it's like, oh yeah!
The tracks themselves are a lot shorter than I remember. However, they have a lot of really unique hazards and layouts that make each track fun to play and fun to replay, for the most part. Vanilla Lake 1, we kind of talked about this, so the third map in the Star Cup is a terrible track. You are constantly forced to slow down to avoid the tons of hazards that are on this map. And I'm waiting for people to tell me to just, get good or whatever, especially Chris owned this game, so he probably mastered the track. But it's designed in a way that the player is almost forced to either run into the ice blocks or go so slow to avoid them that you're going to end up getting past. 50cc is easygoing, nice and laid back, but there's just no challenge there. Like Chris was saying, 100cc is just enough challenge for me to feel like I have to work for first place, whereas 150cc is just brutal. And to the point that it makes it so much harder that it's not even fun anymore. I spoke about that rubber band AI earlier, but that's just one aspect of the computer's ability to cheat. Each AI-controlled player has an unlimited amount of special super items that some are available only to specific characters. For example, Yoshi has Yoshi eggs that he can throw out, but you as the player do not have access to them. There's poisonous mushrooms that can shrink you. The Mario brothers, both of them, Mario and Luigi, can activate star power at will. Plus, they can just jump over any item at any time without the feather. And Chris, you mentioned that earlier yourself. But if for some reason you can crush 150cc and you want to add another layer of difficulty for yourself, or you just want to try out something unique, on the character select screen, you can hold down the Y button and press A, and it will actually shrink your character. I discovered this reading the Nintendo Power volume. I went ahead and I got on eBay and I bought it because I wanted to kind of recapture that spirit of looking through these old magazines while replaying this game. And that's where I discovered that. So you can go ahead and shrink your character. And what makes it so much harder is that it's the lightning bolt effect where it shrinks every character on screen. And if you bump into any other player, you're going to get squished.
Which, as a kid, I mean, like I said, I played this game a lot as a kid. I never knew about that until I was reading this, and until I looked it up as an adult.
The ability to shrink your character?
Yeah, I never knew about that.
Yeah, I think it's a neat little kind of Easter egg, that you can do, that you can add a little bit more challenge if you want, but it's not something that everybody's going to ever find out about.
Yeah.
So going back to my revisiting the game, I could not get the first place trophy on all the cups in 150cc. I tried. I played the hell out of this game in anticipation for this podcast, and I couldn't. While I remember being able to beat the game completely as a kid, I don't have the skills anymore. It's just too hard.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It seemed way harder as an adult. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I beat this as a kid multiple times, and as an adult, dude, 150 is just brutal. I was just happy just to not get eliminated.
Yeah, that's probably exactly how I would describe it.
That was a win for me. Like,
yeah,
I made it.
It was so hard.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, I mentioned that Nintendo Power volume. It was volume 41 of the 1992 October issue, and it had a 9-page spread all about Super Mario Kart. It covers a lot of the basic points about the game, but one thing that I found to be really charming is that so much of the article and a lot of content in these older magazines, a lot of it contained hand-drawn art from Super Mario Kart. All the tracks that they have are also hand-drawn as well, and some of the power-ups and characters that they also showed. I'm not sure what is official art, because it is obviously a Nintendo-sanctioned magazine, but I thought it was just something worth mentioning that they took the time to hand-draw all these maps because they didn't have a lot of capture ability like we have today.
Oh, yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's something that
not a lot of screenshots back in the day.
No, and when you did get a screenshot of any game, kind of anticipation for it, at least for me, I just poured over it. It could be a single screenshot of a game, but I would just let my imagination run wild with the possibilities.
I did the exact same thing. I mean, we've talked about this before, but like reading those old Nintendo Power magazines where they had like the panographic view of the whole map or whatever. I used to just look at those and just pretend like I was just going through playing the game. Like I'd be in the backseat of a car, just staring at those little panoramic views of the whole level, just pretending I was going through the level and playing them over and over.
Man, to be a kid again, and to sit in the backseat of the car and tear open a brand new video game and pull out the manual.
Yes, and this game had a great manual. I will admit, nice big thick manual.
Maybe it's just me, but do you guys remember like a specific smell that you associated with the manual?
That new manual smell?
There's just something about it.
Like new car smell?
I remember pretty much all. Oh, I was gonna say pretty much. I remember all the toys from the 90s, like this included. For me, it was a plastic smell. There's something about plastic from the 90s, including the cartridges and the cellophane that everything was wrapped in. That, yeah, when you open it up, I don't know if it's like the stale factory air that got sealed in there or what, but they all, like all the toys.
The type of plastic they used too.
That's what I'm thinking. Like 90s plastic was unique.
They banned a lot of that 90s plastic nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have as far as replaying the game today. Cory, how did you play the game? Who did you use? And how far did you get?
I played it on my Super Nintendo Mini. And I used Toad. And I got through everything on the 50cc, and I got to the hundreds, and I kind of just got bored. I mean, this game has a very, big nostalgia factor to it, but, playing it and trying to, not use, rose tinted goggles or whatever, it's not a very good game. You know, the graphics are really, really bad. The handling leaves a bit to be desired. The computer cheats a lot, and I think that gives it a very big competitive edge if you're really like working towards something with replayability. But as just kind of a casual thing to pick this up, it's just like, oh man, I don't want to deal with this. And then you kind of run into stuff. There's flipping issues. I enjoy it. I picked it up and I kind of had that fun 20 minutes or so with it. And then after that, it was just sort of like, I'm done with this.
So definitely not a game that you're going to go back to and try again.
Well, no, especially because like there's so many more iterations, like Super Mario 64, and then we had Double Dash and all the other things, and each one built upon the franchise and made it better and better, in my opinion. And,
Yeah, for sure.
I did love 64.
Listening to the original title, like soundtracks too. A lot of these are terrifying. They're like really like dystopian, like calliope music. Like the original Rainbow Road is just this horrible, like screeching audio. Like a lot of it is just not good.
There's a few tracks that I would say I enjoy them, but you're starting to make me kind of second guess this. Do I really enjoy them, or do I just have so much nostalgia for it that I just kind of look over it?
I kind of tried to just kind of take it like from a modern day perspective and look at it and go, okay, has this game really held up well? And I don't think it has. I think that they've polished it so much. Even in the beginning, Jared was like, oh, 4-player, it's like, well, no, that was Mario 64, man. Like, they really made this so much better as they got more iterations of it. But I think, there's a couple of solid tracks like Bowser's Castle and Donut Plains and everything. And I do like that when you get to the last lap, the music starts to speed.
I hated that as a kid. As a kid, I hated when the music doubled down.
It hypes up the tension, but like
it totally does.
But it's very like it's like, oh god, no, I don't want to hear this anymore.
So this is two. Well, what was our last game? Yeah, we did Castlevania last time. This is two games in a row that you really didn't enjoy your experience with it.
But here's the thing: I have fond memories of Mario Kart. I don't have fond memories of Castlevania.
Castlevania. You're kidding? You should have had me here. I could have talked all day about that one.
I really enjoyed Mario Kart as a child, and picking it up, I played through it again, and it was fine. It was like, okay, I can stomach playing this for a half hour, but like it's just kind of lackluster. You look at Super Mario Kart compared to Mario Kart 64 or Double Dash or anything of that nature. And even in like, we were talking about battle mode, and in battle mode as a kid was like, oh, battle mode's fun. But you look at it as an adult, and I booted up battle mode. Like, it's just a box, and there's a lot of like little barricades. There's no element to it. There's nothing special. It's just a lot of like invisible walls, and you can still see everything. And it's just like, yeah, okay. Like, I get what they're doing, but they've really, polished on it in later years. And, as a snapshot in time, there's nothing particularly wrong with this game. But as a, benchmark, like, I can go back and I can play Super Mario World, and it's still Super Mario, Like, I go back and play this, and it's like, God, I don't want to deal with this,
Yeah, and those are all very fair criticisms. And what you said about the game iterating so many times, you're absolutely right. By this point, they have kind of perfected, at least in my opinion, they've got the gameplay down where there's not a whole lot more they can really add to it. And I think that's why they have, that in sales numbers, why we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and why we got this extra DLC that's coming for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I don't know if you guys even play that game, but they are adding, I believe, 24 more tracks,
They've
something
already
like that.
added two.
Yeah, it's just the game is phenomenal. I was fortunate enough last week that one of my friends who is a Twitch streamer and has a decent following, he invited me on to play Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and we streamed for I played well over an hour or so, and I don't do that with racing games. I just don't find them very fun, but I was just blown away by how great it was. But Super Mario Kart is not a game I can go back to and feel the same way about it.
Well, and kind of just to build on it, Nintendo has a habit of doing this. They'll get a good IP like Mario or Zelda or something, and they'll build upon this idea, and it becomes this very nice, polished product, and we all love them. And it's got that nostalgia tie-in, but it's also eventually a very, very well done game. You play Breath of the Wild, and it's like, okay, this game's great. Then you go back and play Ocarina of Time, and Ocarina of Time's a great game. Don't get me wrong, but it's also very clunky. You can screw up a lot in that game, for reasons that are not your own. And I think Nintendo does the same thing. Whether it's Mario Kart or Mario Party, where the original Mario Party games were really unbalanced, and you would end up cutting your hand on that cheap 64 joystick in the middle. They really have that habit of doing this, but I think as a first time IP where they've kind of just started doing racing games, this is a very rough cut of what ultimately the franchise would become.
I think that's really well put. Cory, was there anything else you wanted to talk about before we hand it over to Chris?
No, other than Chris is bad at video games. Continue.
Chris, rebuttal?
What did he say?
He said you're bad at video games.
Oh, dude, I am.
So, Chris, how did you go about playing it today? Kind of the same questions I asked Cory. Who was your main character, and how far did you get?
Replayed it mostly on the NES Mini. I started off replaying it with Yoshi, and immediately got sick of getting bumped around all the time. I skipped right over the 50cc and went straight to the 100. 100 felt good, and then I tried the 150, and yeah, Yoshi just couldn't cut it, and I went back to Koopa, Koopa Troopa, and he wasn't cutting it, and I ended up, and I am with Cory. I did not put a whole lot. I maybe put, I don't know, maybe 4 hours, 5 hours tops replaying this over the last couple of weeks.
See, I feel like they didn't do their homework.
Yeah, but for the same reasons as Cory, man, like this is an ugly, clunky game that does not hold up. I mean, and like especially if you're used to playing any of the newer ones, like 8 Deluxe is a great game. It's so much fun. My son and I love playing that game, and to go back and it's just. I'm glad they came out with this game because it started like this was the start of a awesome franchise. But yeah, it does not hold up.
Chris, do you mind if I cut in here for a second?
Do it.
I will say, we mentioned that I did not like this playing this modern day. So I will say about Castlevania, I had no issues with it as a game. It was a very well done game. It was just wildly abusive. It made me cry. Mario, from a technical standpoint, is very, very choppy. All right, continue.
Yes. But no, I mean, like mechanically and everything, like this game just does not hold up. I mean, I love this game as a kid, but I hate to say it. Most games, like I always recommend, replaying them as an adult. Just skip to the good ones on this one. Like it's it's cool to see where it all started, but it's not a fun play.
It's not
and
that.
and the character I ended up actually settling with was actually Bowser. I got so sick of getting pushed around that especially on the 150cc, I started as an adult. My main is now Bowser, which is weird. And I picked Bowser over Donkey Kong, even though they have the same stats, because Bowser has spikes and horns and is cooler and has cooler music.
He definitely looks cooler than Donkey Kong Jr.
For sure. Oh, and speaking of that, one thing I was looking up so for the trophy ceremony at the end, if you beat it as Bowser in America, it just shows how they're all holding the bottle of champagne and they're all just celebrating with it, going yay.
Yeah, it was censored in the American version.
Right, in the Japanese version, it shows Bowser chugging the champagne like a goon, like he popped the cork and he's already chugging.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it shows him just pouring it in his mouth and it just overflowing down his chin. Like, it is great. Any other thoughts I had about playing as an adult? Honestly, Cory summed it up perfectly, so I'm not going to repeat any more things that he already said. So yeah, I'm in the same seat as Cory.
So it's definitely not a game you'd recommend then.
No, man, like it's rough. It's hard on the eyes. The mode 7 is
Yeah, there's so many other games where the mode 7 really adds to the experience. Castlevania, Super Castlevania 4 being one of them. But this game, it definitely has aged pretty poorly.
Mm-hmm. And every time I did try to play this game, I tried to play it on the TV, and Gibbs would be like, and I'd say, "Hey, buddy, I can't play Mario Kart." He's like, oh, "Cool, I'm gonna play Mario Kart too." And I'd load this one up. I'm like, "Okay, I gotta play this one for the podcast." I'm gonna load up the first Mario Kart, and he'd be like, "Okay," and then I'd load this game up, and he'd be like, "Oh, not this one! Come on!"
Oh my God,
yeah.
this is so ancient.
See, that's the other thing. Like Jared, like we've done Sonic already, and what other games have I played with Gibbs? But like he loves them. He loves the old games.
He loves the vintage ones, huh?
Yeah, but this one he has
Zelda.
no love for. He has no patience for this game at all. Like he is used to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Wii, and that is he does not want to step backwards and play the old one. So.
Well, some games are like that, you try and you play like I'm sorry to go off topic here, but it's one that I really love, Assassin's Creed. Like, if you go and you like play Valhalla and then drop back and try to play like the first one, it's such a world of difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, in replaying this one, there are so many times where like I'm so used to 8 Deluxe where you're basically just drifting around the whole map. Like
it's hard to go back and play.
Yeah, I was not drifting around the corners on this. I was trying to, but really, like, my best way of going around stuff was where all it was just tapping the acceleration button instead of drifting at all.
Right. You're not even using the brake at that point. You're just,
Right. You're right. Yeah. One, and I mean, and that was a game. I mean, and I remember that was a trick that I used as a kid. Like, I never drifted as a kid in the original Mario Kart game, and as an adult, I tried to. I'm like, oh, like obviously, the series put a lot of emphasis on drifting, but in the first one, felt super sloppy, and yeah, like all you do is just tap around the corner,
drifting.
Tap the acceleration, and your steering is perfect doing it that way.
I wish I'd known that trick.
Oh, what? Tapping the acceleration instead of actually, yeah. You never have to hit the brake button, and you never have to hit the drift button. Just tap the acceleration, and you'll do great.
I want to mention one other thing here. We were talking about like the graphics and everything, and how well this held up. This came out in '92, and for comparison, Tailspin and Sonic 2 also came out in 1992. So. You look at a game like Sonic 2 and you kind of compare it to this, it's like, okay, well, I mean, this did not age nearly as well.
Well, and even look at the original Super Mario World. I mean, like that game, I still think that game looks
sure,
flawless,
but
and there's no chuggy spots.
We're talking like the same year, and it's like, okay, this is the technology that was available at the time, and you have, Tailspin, which is a great game, and you have this, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, I mean, this was really fun for its time frame, but I think this was just, I don't know if it was rushed or if it was just something like, you said this was supposed to be an F-Zero game. I don't know if maybe they just had too much time spent like in the art department and they never really cleaned it up as well as they could have.
No, Mode 7 was the new hotness with the machine.
Yeah.
When
I will. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. This was built off F-Zero, more or less. I mean, like, I don't know. We're using the same engine, but I mean, it was all the same engine. But this game is different because, like I was asking earlier, I don't think there was a kart game before this. There was not a game where you actually got power-ups for your car with different randomized weapons, and each different, car could be firing, 8 different weapons at 8 different times, or you know what I mean? Like, I do think this game was innovative and unique, and the first of its kind. And I'd be happy to be wrong, but I mean, like, without, I probably should have researched this ahead of time. But speaking of,
when did we get like Cruising USA in the arcade? Was that later than this?
Oh man, yeah. I would have to say so. I mean, those were
like 94, wasn't it? Wasn't too much.
Okay, so it was a little later then.
I think so. I don't quote me on that, but I remember seeing it in the arcades probably a little bit after 92.
And I do remember.
I'm just trying to get a benchmark, like to
compare it to like what other early racing games came out at the same time. I really don't.
When is that?
I'm trying to look up when Cruising USA came out, but I'm getting a lot of just looking at the Wikipedia because I'm trying to find this real quick. It appears that the N64 version came out in 1994.
Oh, I was right.
But as far as when the actual arcade came out, I don't know. And again, I could be wrong because I'm just hastily looking this up while we're talking.
Yeah.
And Cruising USA was also originally released in 94 and later ported and improved for the 64 in 96.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So it was about 94 then. Yeah, okay. I mean, like I said, I'm just trying to think of it, if there was anything like racing related. That and like Road Rash, those are the sort of things that pop into my head.
Yeah, I actually think it prompted a lot of games like Cruising USA and, stuff like that. As far as this was one of those games where it wasn't just racing. You could go in and just mess the other player up. You know what I mean? That was one of the biggest and most attractive.
Yeah, right. Like the collision effects.
Yeah. Shooting stuff at them. And it's like, that like I had mentioned before, that's where the fights broke out because you just cheated me out at first because you shot me. And you know what? It's on now, buddy.
Well, and this was also like pre-Blue Shell, so you had no backup either. So,
Yep.
Like, for you kids at home, if you suck, you suck, like there's no catch-up mechanic.
No.
I hadn't thought about it, but Mario Kart as a franchise may very well be responsible for later games like Twisted Metal, where there was a vehicle mechanic, but there was also a lot of emphasis on the power-up aspect of it.
I believe that.
I mean, I could be totally off base, but, just kind of connecting the dots, it seems like that very well may be the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, all right, guys, I think that was a great segment. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. And when we return, we will go ahead and hit our last segment where we kind of discuss our final thoughts of the game. Stick around. We'll be right back. And we're back for our final segment where we're going to discuss our final thoughts of the game. Jared, how do you feel overall about Super Mario Kart? Is it something that you're still going to want to play today? Or are you going to stick with the later iterations of the game, like its sequel, Mario Kart 64?
Oh yeah, no, it's I gotta agree with Chris and Cory here on this one. This one is, I think, better left in the graveyard. Um,
Not in the graveyard, in the museum.
in a museum. I'll give. You have to excuse me. I put a spooky twist on stuff, but yeah, again, it was a fun game for its time. It was really enjoyable at the time. Again, a lot of breakthroughs for future games it had. And I think Chris was actually probably more correct in a museum, because you can't necessarily disrespect this one and the fact that it did lead to so many great games, And again, the more Nintendo polished it and the more the future generations that came out, it was just more and more fun.
Absolutely. Cory, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it's like a solid 3.5, 4 out of 10. Like, as we've already kind of read here, it's like the progenitor to all of this. It's a very stripped down, clunky, not a lot of effects, crashing into walls and invisible stuff. Not fun to play. It's nice to know that it's there, and we had that time, but I would never tell someone, hey, this is what you've got to play before you do anything else. Like, no, man, no, just pick up a copy of Double Dash.
It's interesting that you mentioned Double Dash. I need to get a hold of my GameCube because I own that game as well, but that's probably where I feel that they kind of went off the rails with Mario Kart. But that's a whole nother topic. Chris, Super Mario Kart, would you feel the same way that Cory kind of feels?
Yeah,
that
exactly.
It's something that should just kind of
it's best left in the past. It's worth appreciating, but just leave it in the past.
I would have to say I have the exact same feelings of it. It's one of those games that very well deserved its sales, because the game sold almost 9 million copies worldwide, which is phenomenal.
Wow.
But if I have to be honest, go ahead. What do you got?
Oh, no, like at the time it was new, exciting, unique, a lot of fun, great couch co-op, not co-op, but couch 2-person player game. But now it's just ugh.
Its direct sequel, Mario Kart 64,
Was
the
awesome.
64 had, built-in 4-player capabilities. I think that if the Super Mario Kart had used the multi-tap, and I think that it's something as simple as adding 2 more players to it, I don't know what kind of impact that would have had on, the machine itself.
Imagine 4 people trying to fit on that screen, though.
Yeah, it may be technical limitations that prevented that, but I think something as small as that really could have made this game something to kind of last further, give it more legs. But
yeah, I can't imagine somebody like chilling back on retro game night with their buddies and popping this one in and replaying this one a whole lot.
I have to agree with you there.
We've given the people so many other options so far.
Yeah.
Just go pick up the Ninja Turtles. Like, you've got other choices, people.
Yeah, there's definitely some other games that could be played on a retro night. So I think that wraps up our final thoughts. Before I kind of get into how you can go about seeing this episode and more episodes, Jared is actually an author, and he is going to tell us a little bit about a book that he has and where we can find it. Jared, tell us all about your book.
Hey, thank you, Sean. Yeah, it's called Tales from the Pit Crew. Now, PIT stands for Paranormal Investigation and Termination. Basically, it's a paranormal thriller. And my protagonist, Dr. Daryl Diamondback, he's a CSI forensic psychologist. He's on hot on the trail of the boogeyman, and the government agency that he works for is looking for him to put together a crew. And it's actually been received really well. A lot of 5-star reviews so far, so I'm kind of proud of that. Been hailed as the A-team of the paranormal world. Even my main character, Dr. Diamondback, got hailed as a foul-mouthed Sam Spade. Not exactly for the faint of heart, because it does have a little gore. It does have a lot of adult language. Despite its cover, it is available on Amazon right now. That's the only place that it's on, but I am trying to get an author website up and running. I'm trying, there's a few more places, that you can find it on Kindle, of course. As a matter of fact, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can go ahead and get it for free. So that's kind of neat. But no, I'm really excited. It just came out in February 28th. Of this year, and I'm already actually hot working on the second one now, because it's the first installment of what I hope to be a series.
And is it only available digitally?
It is available digitally, and it is available in paperback, as a matter of fact. So you can get yourself a copy if you like that new book smell, kind of like that new video game smell or new car smell. There is a new book smell. I know there is. But you can pick yourself up a copy. It's only $9.99, so it's not going to break your bank. Again, I'm a brand new author, so I figured I'd come in low, and then once it blows up, then you'll be able to buy it for $14.99 like everybody else.
Well, thank you very much.
And I will admit, I would rather reread his book again than play Mario Kart again.
Chris, absolutely nice to hear from a fan, man.
All right. Thank you very much, Jared. You can find me on Twitter at ReviewByte. That's review BYTE. You can find our podcasts on iHeartRadio. I also upload these to YouTube so that it allows just another way for people to go ahead and listen to our podcast. There's actually quite a few people that have asked me offline, because they've been using podcast apps in order to listen to the show, that they've asked about YouTube, and they were really pleased to find out that I've been uploading these all as well. So they're available there. We also have a Discord server, and I'll have that information in the show notes. Our next game, and I had mentioned this previously, we have been working through Shinobi 3 for the Sega Genesis. Cory, hopefully you'll be able to find that time to coordinate with your brother so that we can get him on, and we can talk
he's
about...
available whenever.
Just bring him in the truck with you.
Yeah, he's available whenever. We'll just beat him up, get him in the show for a few hours.
Perfect. Well, hopefully we will get that episode knocked out. This one, it took a little bit longer than I wanted to get to this, but we'll have Shinobi 3 out there, and we can start looking forward games after that. I've been playing a ton of Mega Man lately. I don't know why, but I've just been drawn to it. So maybe we can pick one of those original games.
Yes,
I would love to do that.
Or we can play one of the Super Nintendo variants.
I want to go over NES. Let's start. We can skip the first one, but let's start with 2.
There we
Mega
go,
Man
folks.
Great.
Yeah, so we will eventually play Mega Man 2. That's my favorite of the first 6.
Or I got an idea, because I've been playing. I've been replaying Ninja Turtles 2 and 3 back to back, and I wouldn't mind talking about those down the line too. But how about with Mega Man? If you guys, it's not too long of a game. How about we play both 1 and 2 and talk about both of them together and comparing how, talk about the improvements from 2 over 1, or the changes, the progression.
That's a good idea.
Compare and contrast.
Yeah. That way we can knock
it.
out both of them in one.
We will have a Mega Man Mega Packed episode. So, Jared, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on and talk about this game.
Of course, and thank you, gentlemen, for having me. It was really a pleasure. I enjoyed sitting and talking with y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Chris and Cory, as always, thank you so much. I know that you both are very, very busy. Cory, you are actively working right now, but you're still taking the time out of your day to go ahead and talk to us about your thoughts and feelings about this game. And it just means so much to me. And for all of you listening out there, thank you so, so much. I know that the numbers have been kind of dwindling a little bit because I see the statistics of how the episodes. So I really want to put out more episodes. And over the summer, I think that we'll have more time to do that. Hopefully, Chris and Cory, you guys will have more time as well. And all in all, thank you all so much for just taking the time to be a part of this hobby of mine.
One of my new favorite podcasts now.
Well, thank you very much, Jared. And for everybody out there, thank you and enjoy this last bit of Super Mario Kart music.